Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our second annual Public Health Summit. I'm thrilled to see you all here today for our panels on topics that really couldn't be more crucial in the field of public health. The topics we'll be discussing today affect all of us here and the generation to come. Take climate change, for example. We know it's real and it's happening today. Rising sea levels, more extreme weather events like dangerous hurricanes, wildfires, and heat waves, just to name a few of the trends that we are already experiencing and, in fact, fill the front pages of our newspapers today. We'll also hear about why educating girls can break cycles of poverty and lift entire families out of a cycle of low income, poor health outcomes, and other detrimental social and economic factors. And then there's the rise of the so-called superbugs, microbes that are resistant to the most powerful antibiotics we have on the shelf today. We'll hear more about possible solutions to the public health crisis of antibiotic-resistant bugs that are evolving and can easily spread from one country to the next. Before I introduce our first distinguished speaker, I just want to remind everybody that this session today is being livecast. When we do move into a time when we can have audience involvement, to use the microphones so that everybody can hear in our audience. So it is a thrill to introduce a very special guest who will give keynote remarks, Senator Ben Cardin. Almost called you doctor. Senator Cardin has been a national leader on health care, fiscal issues, and the environment while representing the people of Maryland in the U.S. Senate and before that in the House of Representatives. And I happen to be one of your constituents, by the way. Nationally, he is a champion of protecting our clean air and water, and he has a strong commitment to reduce pollution, protect the environment, and is working to increase access to safe public transportation as well as walking and biking trails. First elected to the Senate in 2006, Senator Cardin currently serves as the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And he is the senior member of the Environment and Public Works Committee and the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. He also serves as a member of the powerful Senate Finance Committee. Among other work, he has introduced legislation to restore the health of America's great water bodies and is the leading proponent of investing in improvements to America's aging water infrastructure system, all the while preparing for the impacts of climate change. I'm also thrilled that we have with us today Frank Sesno, fellow academic leader here at the George Washington University, who, as you know, leads our School of Media and Public Affairs. After we've heard some opening remarks from Senator Cardin, Frank will come up and moderate a session where hopefully we can engage all of you. So you can be thinking about questions that you might want to ask the senator. So please join me in welcoming Senator Ben Cardin. Thank you.
Dean Goldman, first of all, thank you very much for that generous introduction, but more importantly for what you do here at the Milken Institute School of Public Health at George Washington University. This is an extremely important subject on public health, and I'm glad that you've recognized that climate change is a matter of public health. So I want to thank you for paying attention to this subject, and it's always good to get a reason for me to leave Capitol Hill. I wish I didn't have to go back the rest of the week, but anyway, thank you. Climate change is real. It is under tremendous stress today for many, many reasons. We know that ice caps are melting, which is not only dangerous for the polar bears, which got a lot of national attention, it's dangerous for humans, as we see islands disappearing in the South Pacific, and we see constant flooding in Miami and other coastal cities. Sea level increases are affecting my own state. Smith Island is disappearing in the Chesapeake Bay. We have flooding in Annapolis on a pretty regular basis. So we see the impact of climate change on a regular basis. So this is something that is hitting us hard. The Dean mentioned our extreme weather conditions that we see. We certainly have experienced that of late with the storms in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico to Houston, Texas, to the wildfires in California, and the list goes on and on and on. So we see it here. But globally, we see flooding, we see famines, we see droughts, we see all types of concerns that are causing people extreme public health challenges. And one of the effects of this is that we now have more refugees than we had since the end of World War II, globally. Well, we have climate migrants, people who cannot stay in their homes. They can't stay there because they're flooded out, or they can't stay there because they can't produce crops in order to live, all as a result of climate change. So we have a pretty extreme circumstance today that we're dealing with. And it's been pointed out by many of the people who study this, there's not a lot of time left for us to reverse the human impact on climate change. Add to that one additional challenge that we did not anticipate a year ago. Melissa got it a little late, but that's all right. The U.S. leadership is vitally important for these issues, and U.S. leadership has been challenged. President Trump's decision to pull out of Paris, COP21, certainly was something that was difficult to understand. We heard this morning that the EPA administrator instructed his scientists who were at the Narragansett Bay Summit that they couldn't participate in that discussion because he would not allow EPA scientists to add to the debate on what to do in Narragansett Sound. We've also seen a retreat on the clean water with the attempts to eliminate the rule, and in clean air with backing off on our commitments to deal with that. So we have seen a challenge, but put that aside for one moment, because as challenging as all these circumstances might be, the consensus among the scientific community is that we can make a difference, that this is a challenge that can be met if we do the right thing. So we need to stay focused on how we can make a difference to deal with this public health challenge and a challenge to our future generations. We may, in fact, be the last generation that can make a meaningful impact on reversing the impact of climate change. So what should our action agenda look like? Well, in COP21 Paris, the goal was clearly to limit the increase in climate to hopefully 1.5 degrees Celsius, but certainly no more than 2 degrees above the historic levels. That's our goal. And that is achievable. We can accomplish that. So how do we go about doing it? Well, first, we do need to be engaged as Americans in a global response. In just a week or two, COP23 will convene in Bonn, Germany. And no, I don't expect a large governmental presence from the United States, but I can tell you this, from the executive branch, I should say. I will lead a group of 5 senators who will be in Bonn to represent America's commitment to work with the international community. I won't be alone, not the 5 senators. We're going to have a lot of American businesses. We're going to have American state leaders, municipal leaders who will be there. A lot of private citizens are going to be there. to make it clear that this is a global responsibility in America. We'll do everything we can as individuals and as senators and as mayors and as governors and as business leaders to show America's leadership. So it's going to be more challenging, but we know that the president on his own cannot remove us immediately from the climate change discussions. And we know that around him are a lot of his advisors who understand that it is not in America's interest to pull out of international discussions on climate change. And we think we can show U.S. leadership in various sectors. We think we can show U.S. leadership on energy, particularly clean energy. We say that because, yes, we know clean energy is one of the major factors for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and dealing with the needs of climate change. We recognize that. But we also recognize that clean energy creates more jobs. You can make more money in clean energy. And America likes to make money. Americans like to make money. So the economic issues will drive us towards the right energy policies. We just got to help it along a little bit. You know, we have certain subsidies for the fossil fuels. Let's have a level playing field. And we're looking for that. We can accomplish that. I serve as the ranking Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We know that on clean energy, we can become energy self-sufficient. We know the consequences of countries that have fossil fuels and how that has skewed American foreign policy, not always in our best interest. So becoming energy independent through use of clean energy helps us deal with our national security challenges. So for all those reasons, an energy policy that can help us deal with the realities of climate change as a public health issue will also help us grow our economy and deal with our national security interests. We also believe that energy can be one of the impetuses for dealing with the revenue needs of this country. Let me back off. We have a lot of discussion right now about trying to deal with competitive income tax rates. We have a budget moving through the Senate, a lot of discussion on how we're going to come together. Well, one of the answers is, how about a carbon tax? How about a carbon tax? Because it's, first, it helps us deal with a problem of energy self-sufficiency, also helps us, of course, on the environment, provides revenue, so we don't have to use as much of the income tax revenues, which were not competitive on a global basis, and can also help us deal with another challenge we have out there, and that's an aging infrastructure. All that could be done to make a win-win-win situation. And that's why we have Democrats and Republicans are talking about a carbon tax as part of our solution, which would help show America's leadership on dealing with climate change. We may not be able to advertise it that way, but that's the impact of it. While we're talking about transportation, in every previous recent transportation reauthorization bill, we have made a statement about a balanced transportation infrastructure for this country. I serve as the ranking Democrat on the subcommittee that's responsible for infrastructure in this country, on the Environment and Public Works Committee. And I can tell you this, we're not going to get an infrastructure bill unless there's a fair allocation to mass transit, because we recognize how important that is, yes, for the quality of life. Those of us who are stuck in commuter traffic understand the need to get cars off of the roads so that we can have a sanity in our lives. We recognize that. But it's also a matter of importance for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and it has a win-win part of that. I am the author, along with Senator Cardin, of the Transportation Alternative Programs. This takes a small amount of the highway money and puts it into bike paths and pedestrian paths, connecting communities together so people don't have to get into their cars at all. They can actually walk places. You know, I'm particularly bullish on this because of Baltimore. Baltimore-Umstead developed the city to be neighborhoods connected by green space. Unfortunately, a lot of that green space was built over. We're now reconnecting neighborhoods together so that they can have open space and communities that never had access to recreational facilities and parks are now getting access. It's a matter of justice as well as sensible for our environment. So there are things we can do that we have strong bipartisan support that may not be labeled climate change, but can show America's leadership in this area. Another part of this is adaptation and resiliency. They're two words that are acceptable in our political dialect today. And we're working on a water infrastructure that gives us resiliency, which helps us deal with a lot of the challenges, including getting lead out of water and dealing with another public health issue that you may, Dean Goldman, have on another day, how we can deal with the lead contamination in America. But we do need to deal with that issue. At the same time, we can deal with the water efficiency issues that can be much more friendly towards greenhouse gas emissions than our current way that we distribute water in this country and treat wastewater in this country. So there are things that we can do as part of resiliency. The tragedy in Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands, horrible. And I just urge you all to understand just how urgent the situation is with most of the people in the islands living without electricity or water. You can't live without water. And they're pumping water out of contaminated sites, and we don't even know how, we're not even in touch with a large part of the population. We need to rebuild. But as we rebuild, why don't we make it the model? We got companies that are interested in working with us. The federal government should be a senior partner. Rebuild it the right way. Rarely do you get a blank slate to rebuild in America. Now we have a chance to do that in Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. And that could be a model for many other communities to show a better way to provide for our infrastructure, our electricity, our water in a way that'll be much friendlier towards our environment. So there's leadership that we can show. What is key, and where I really want to just emphasize, we need more public support. Public support's out there. They understand the risk factors. We got to make it clear that they understand the connection and connect the dots so that we can get their support. It's also a matter of quality of life in our economy, as I've already mentioned. If you're a senator from Maryland, you know that being for the Chesapeake Bay has never been controversial. It was started by Democrats and Republicans. We've worked together to improve the Bay. Why? Because it's part of our way of life. We take pride in having a national treasure, the Chesapeake Bay. We love the ability to view the bay and to view the wildlife and to fish and to boat and all the things that go along with it. And we also enjoy the $1 trillion it means for our economy. So when we look at the fact that warmer waters means it's going to be much more difficult for us to have a blue crab crop, you get Marylanders' attention. They understand that. They understand how important that is to our state. So we got to get down to the level that people understand. And we have to also get to the national security. I already mentioned on migrants and the stability globally, which is very important for U.S. national security interests. But how about Norfolk being flooded out or Annapolis being flooded out? The impact it has on our national security. Our generals are talking about it, and we have to make sure people understand that. And of course, the public health risk is clearly there. So let me just conclude on one more challenge that's out there. And then I look forward to your friendly questions. But another challenge out there is that it's hard to stay focused. Every day there's another tweet or another something happens and the subject changes. It might be about the president's conversation with a family of the victims of a soldier that was killed, or it might be the size of a crowd, or it might be something to be said about whether the chief of staff said something that was honest or not honest. We got to stay focused on this public health challenge every day, make progress on it, don't get distracted, take care of your own public health. Turn off cable news for at least a week, one time, don't listen to it. It'll help you. I guarantee you, you'll feel much better. Stay focused on these issues because The power in this country is with we, the people, not with the president, not even with the United States Senate. It's hard for me to believe that. The power is with the people. And if we stay focused and we work on it, the people are with us on this issue. We got to channel that energy into concrete results with a smart strategy, because literally the public health of Americans and the global public health depends upon it. That's my commitment, and I can tell you there's a large group of senators who every week we meet to plot what we can do so America can maintain its leadership on dealing with this public health challenge. Thank you all again for being here, and look forward to your questions.
Great risk to my own future. I may have just heard the most important public health pronouncement here, which is turn off cable news for a week. So we'll take you seriously at that. We have a few minutes for a couple of questions, so if someone's got something on their minds, let's dive right in before the senator has to run back up and save the world on Capitol Hill. Over in the corner there, we got a mic there? And tell us who you are, and go ahead.
Yes, my name is Farooq Saadat, and I'm from Howard University. I wanted to know what is the relationship between all the issue we deal globally with our foreign policies that we have and all the wars everywhere.
Well, you know, U.S. is by far the leading voice globally in foreign policy. We have a toolbox available to us. America is the envy of the world, not because we have the strongest military, which we do, and the most professional military, and we do, not just because we have the strongest economy, and we do. It's our values. It's what we bring to the international stage. Good governance, respect for human rights, democratic institutions, anti-corruption. And everything we do should be put in that context. Yes, we'll have strategic partners because we need to accomplish a specific objective. But when we look at real partners, they're those who share these global views. And that's been America's trading point since we've been the major power in the world. We've deviated it at times at our own risk. And today, we are also deviating in certain parts of the world. And it's our responsibility to get back on track. Now, America's leadership is being questioned today. Why? We're not at the table on COP23. Why? Because we said we're going to do it alone. Why? Because the president's going alone in North Korea rather than engaging our neighbors the way he should before making certain statements. Why? Because we just ditched the Europeans on the Iran agreement. All of that puts America at risk, and what happens? There's a void. Who fills the void? If the transatlantic partnership is weakened, the void will be filled by Russia or China. That's not in our national security interest.
Another question. Yes, ma'am. Mike is coming.
Hello, my name is Seema Kumar. I'm a physician, but interested in public health. And as you've identified correctly, that it's a national security issue, and clearly the Department of Defense understands that and the risk to the U.S. security. How effective are they at influencing the president and the decision-making?
That's a great question. I don't know who's influential in the president in influencing his decision-making process. And I mean that respectfully, because I don't know of a senior advisor who thought it was a good idea to pull out of COP21. In confirmation hearings, we heard from Secretary Tillerson where he thought it was a good idea to stay in COP21. He disagreed with the president. This is a foreign policy decision primarily, so that's the cabinet secretary that is the principal advisor to the president on this issue. I had conversations with his national security team. I couldn't find anybody on his national security team who agreed with that decision. Then fast forward to the Iran, and now not certifying on Iran. I don't know of a single person on his national security team who advised him to do that. In fact, I know several who thought that was a bad idea to do. So I don't know what makes the president do what he does, but he's certainly not following the traditional influence of the people he has selected to be his principal advisors in those fields.
Senator, before you leave, and I know you have to leave, perhaps you could leave us with this thought. everybody in the room here has a scorecard of one sort or another on this issue. It's why they've come together. I'm sure you do too. Given the political moment that we're in, given the international environment that we're in, what is the one thing that you're looking to determine whether America is going to continue to lead under this circumstance or really fall out or fall terribly far behind?
Well, I think the yardstick I would use is whether we, in fact, carry out our commitments from COP21. I understand what the president has said, but I also know, as I said, you can't pull out of the underlining protocols for several more years. And I know that there isn't one policy that gets us to what we said we would do in COP21. And from what I can tell, a lot of the policies that can get us to COP21 are pretty solid right now. So we're moving ahead on some of them. Others need further help. So the one thing I would urge is, rather than trying to get someone to stand up and say, yeah, I'm for dealing with climate change and I'm ready to take on the president and I'm a Republican, I wouldn't ask for that. What I would ask, I understand what you're talking about, and I'm going to be supporting energy policies that will be good for our economy and good for our national defense. And by the way, it also means for cleaner air. I think that's what we're looking for. We're looking for Republicans and Democrats to join us on implementing strategies to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in a smart way that will be perceived by the international community that we're serious about joining them on climate change.
Senator, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks.